All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful and honestly one of the most secretive militias in the Middle East, Kata'ib Hezbollah. These guys operate deep in the shadows of the Iraqi state. And if you really want to get a handle on what's happening in the region, you have to understand them. And look, let's be crystal clear right from the get-go. This is a group with a serious reputation. This quote you see here from a U.S. diplomat, it says it all, really. It just sets the stage perfectly. We're talking about a group whose entire history is steeped in violence, and their impact on U.S. forces in Iraq, well, it was massive. And frankly, it still is. So here's the game plan for today. First, we'll figure out who exactly Kata'ib Hezbollah is. Then we'll get into their ideology, what makes them tick. After that, we'll walk through their timeline of violence, check out how they play the political game in Iraq, and then dig into their modern tactics. Some really clever stuff. And finally, we'll tie it all together and answer the big question, why does this one group matter so much? All right, Section 1. Let's start with the basics. Who is Kata'ib Hezbollah? Okay, so at its most basic level, Kata'ib Hezbollah, we'll just call him KH, is a Shiite militia. But that's just the start. The two words you absolutely need to remember are Iranian-sponsored and anti-American. That's their whole deal. They're mainly active in Iraq and Syria, and yeah, the U.S. has officially designated them a terrorist group. And here's the really key part. They have this incredibly tight relationship with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. It's not just an alliance, it's almost like they're two sides of the same coin. So, what drives them? What's the why behind all their actions? Well, to get that, you gotta look at their core beliefs. And you know what? It's actually pretty straightforward. It all comes down to two main pillars that hold up everything they do. And here they are, side by side. First, you've got this intense, baked-in anti-American ideology. I mean, their main goal, stated right on their own website, is to kick every single American soldier out of Iraq. Think about that. They are so committed to this idea that they wouldn't even fight on the same side as the U.S. against a mutual enemy like ISIS. That's how deep it runs. Then, on the other side of the coin, you have this unwavering, absolute loyalty to Iran. We're talking about members literally swearing an oath to Iran's supreme leader. They've fully bought into Iran's vision of how a country should be run, with religious leaders in charge. At the end of the day, they see themselves as a tool, a way for Tehran to export its revolution. Okay, so you have this two-part doctrine: hate America, love Iran. Now let's see how that plays out in the real world. We're going to trace their history, and you'll see how they went from being a local problem to a serious regional powerhouse. This timeline, it really tells the story of their transformation. Back in the day, during the Iraq War, they made a name for themselves with these incredibly deadly roadside bombs and what were called IRAMs, improvised rocket-assisted mortars. Nasty stuff. But here's where it gets interesting. After the U.S. pulls out in 2011, do they just fade away? No way. They pivot. Just a year later, they're sending fighters into Syria to help defend the Assad regime, all at Iran's direction. Fast forward to 2019, and now they're launching drones at oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. Then in 2020, their leader, Abu Mahdi al-Mohandes, gets taken out in that same U.S. drone strike that killed Qasem Soleimani. You'd think that would slow them down, but it did the opposite. It poured fuel on the fire, leading directly to them becoming a huge part of this recent wave of over 100 attacks on U.S. targets. But here's the thing. Their influence isn't just about bombs and drones. Not even close. This is where things get really complicated and, frankly, kind of murky, because Kata'ib Hezbollah is also a major player in Iraqi politics. So that leads to the million-dollar question, right? Are these guys a rogue militia, or are they part of the actual government? And the crazy thing is, the answer is yes. They're kind of both. So they have a political party, the Fatah Alliance, that actually gets them seats in parliament. But if you look at the numbers, you might think their power is fading. In the 2018 election, they had 48 seats. Pretty significant. But by 2021, that number crashed down to just 14. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Looking at just the election results, it doesn't even begin to tell the whole story. See, their real power doesn't come from a ballot box. It comes from the barrel of a gun. Take the former Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi. When he was about to be approved by Parliament, KJ just came right out and threatened violence if he got the job. That's their playbook. They use their fighters to bully the political system. Why bother winning an election when you can just intimidate your way to getting what you want? So you've got this weird hybrid, right? They're politicians by day, militia fighters by night. And that's forced them to get really, really clever. They've developed this whole system for launching attacks while keeping their own hands clean. It's a masterclass in what we call plausible deniability. And here's how the magic trick works. It's a 4-step playbook, and it's brutally effective. Step 1, the real KH leadership plans an attack behind the scenes. Step 2, they create, or just pull a name out of a hat for, a brand new facade group. Step 3, this new group, nobody's ever heard of, pops up online and claims responsibility for the attack. And step 4, the final act, KH's official spokespeople go on the record and say, nope, wasn't us. It muddies the waters perfectly and gives them that layer of separation. And don't think this is just a couple of fake names. This is a whole ecosystem of denial. You've got these armed fronts with these dramatic names like Ashab al-Kahf, which means companions of the cave. They're the ones who'll claim the rocket attacks, but the strategy goes way beyond just violence. They've got digital fronts, like a group called Unit 10,000 that does their online propaganda and hacking. They even have things like the Imam Hussein Scout Association, which sounds harmless, right? But it's really about recruiting and indoctrinating kids. Okay, so let's zoom out and put all the pieces together. Why have we spent all this time digging into this one group? What's the big takeaway? It's this. They are the perfect example of a modern hybrid threat. You can't just stick one label on them and call it a day. Because Kata'ib Hezbollah isn't just one thing. It's all of these things, all at the same time. It's a U.S.-designated terrorist group. It's a key military proxy for Iran. It's an official brigade within Iraq's own government security forces. It's a player in parliament. It's a secret network of front groups. It's this powerful force that's outside the state but can also control the state from within. And that ability to be everything at once is what makes them so dangerous and so incredibly hard to deal with. And if you still need proof of their impact right now, just look at this number, over 100. That's how many attacks the umbrella group that KH leads launched against U.S. targets in just a 4-month span recently. This isn't some history lesson. This is happening right now, and it's a massive threat to the stability of the entire region. So this all brings us to one final, really unsettling question. As Kata'ib Hezbollah embeds itself deeper and deeper into the very DNA of the Iraqi state, what happens to the line between the government and the insurgents trying to tear it down? I mean, can a country actually function when one of its own official security forces is also a rogue militia attacking its allies? Can that state even survive? How Iraq answers that question, well, that's probably going to determine its entire future.